trying to make sure they get to that playoff match with Sam Tompkins and Sam Cassiano able to play. I think there's still a bit of a question mark who plays alongside Mitchell Pearce, whether Drinkwater's done enough last week guiding the kids around at Wigan, or whether Tyrone May gets the nod to stay in that second halfback position. I just think Catalans have been trying to get all of their main men that can play in this game through to this game. And in that regard, I'm therefore going Catalans at home to win by 4 points in what I think will be a tense, close game. I think a sort of 20 points to 16 type score line, maybe even lower scoring than that.
Interesting.
Then Saturday, the big decision is whether you watch it on Sky or Channel 4. I think,
or if you're David, you go. We've already agreed that.
Yeah,
David's going.
Huddersfield versus Salford, 1 p.m. kickoff. I think what I might do is watch the build-up and stuff on Sky, because I know people criticise Sky and like Adam Hills, but I actually think Sky's build-up is better for Super League, for like entrenched rugby league fans, whereas the Channel 4 one's better for casual, occasional fans. But then I'll watch Mark Wilson and Kyle Amore's commentary, because I think that is better, as Sky have recognised by getting them on games over the last 3 weeks on their channel as well.
Indeed.
Not that I dislike the Sky commentary team. I just think Mark Wilson's the best main feature commentator in our sport in this country at the moment. Huddersfield versus Salford, anyway, that's really what we're talking about, not what channel we're watching it on.
Go on then.
I know what you're going to say, because you've already tipped your hand that way. Instead, you're going with momentum and going with Salford. I think in both these two games, whoever scores first is quite crucial, but I think it's most crucial in this game. I think Huddersfield have to score first. They probably have to have an 8 or 10 point lead by about the half-hour mark. I'm going to edge my bets a little bit, but I will have to pick one way or another, obviously. But I'm going to edge my bets a little bit, and I'm going to say if Theo Farge plays, Huddersfield win. I'm going to go Huddersfield by 4. I think if Theo Farge doesn't play, then Salford win, but I'm going to go Huddersfield by 4.
There's a lot of caveats in that pick, I would say.
There is, but when I say whether I got 1 out of 2 or 2 out of 2 or none out of 2 next week on the show, it will be based on whether Huddersfield have won.
You're not wrong. I'm going to go with Salford. Players rested, red hot form, Huddersfield scratchy and inconsistent. I'm confident. Salford by 10.
Salford by 10. Championship, it's the final round of fixtures. The only one that features 2 playoff teams is Halifax versus Featherstone, so I think that could be an interesting one. Halifax 3rd place, Featherstone 2nd place. That's on Sunday at 3 p.m. Then League One, it's the playoffs in League One, so you've got the elimination playoff between Rochdale and Oldham, tense local derby, Sunday at 1 p.m. That'll decide which team falls out at this stage and which team plays on. And then you've got I think they call it the qualifier playoff or something. North Wales versus Doncaster, Sunday at 2:30 p.m. So the winner of that gets a week off, and the loser of that doesn't get a week off, gets the pleasure of going and playing Swinton, don't they? And the loser of that plays in an elimination playoff game against the winner of Rochdale against Oldham. So that's the old playoff system we used to have in Super League 20 years ago, isn't it? The convoluted 5-team operation.
God, there's been so many different formats. It's just lottery, you know.
Yeah, but make sure you get your fan views in on all of those games. I might try and remember to put automatic posts out whilst that application that we use for that is still free, because if we're going to continue with it next year, we have to pay. I might make most use of it and set up ones for those League One playoff games as well. The women take a week off before they play their grand final. The second tier of the women's competition will be playing, I think, next week, their playoffs, but to be honest, I didn't see the fixtures anywhere. And the wheelchair takes a week off before their semi-finals in 2 weeks' time, is my understanding of things. If I've got that wrong, I apologise. Okay, but make sure you get your fan reviews in on any rugby league you watch, even if it's like your kids' team or what have you. We'd love to hear about it. And then we'll talk about it next week's show. That's this week's show pretty much finished. We're just going to move into the wrap-up where I've written a quiz for the first time in ages, it feels like. So, yeah.
Oh, goody.
One of the things we've been talking about so much in the last particularly 2 or 3 rounds of fixtures, but a lot all year really, is about players being given Super League debuts. So
okay.
That is what the quiz is going to be based around, is Super League debuts. So it's not about people who've played making their first grade or first team debut. It's people who are playing their first game in Super League. So they could be a young player playing their first pro game. They could be an NRL player playing their first Super League game. They could be a player who's come up through the systems with Toulouse or something and played lots of Championship but playing their first Super League games. But that's the kind of concept here we've got. Okay?
Okay.
So, question 1, and I'm going to give you the point if you get within 10 of the answer. Okay? But how many players have made their Super League debut this season?
Wow, okay. So you got a new team. Got some international players coming over. Total stab in the dark. Let's say a lot of juniors making their debuts this year. A lot of scratch sides, a lot of part-timers playing in these last few rounds. I'm going to say 65.
Way off.
Go on.
I make it 96.
Holy, that's a lot.
It's twice as many as last year, where I make it 48.
Well,
so unless I've like transcribed something wrong on my spreadsheets.
No, but when you think about it, if you think, yeah.
It was an abbreviated season last year, and a lot of teams played some young players the odd time in that COVID-affected year, didn't they? Yeah. So actually, it makes more sense that last year, and they didn't have any double headers last year, did they?
And you've just got to look at women's player numbers this year, some ridiculous numbers. Yeah.
The previous highest since SLP began, so since my spreadsheets began, is 77 in 2016. That's the second highest for Super League debuts since I've been looking at it. Obviously, there's players who've played since 2014 that made their Super League debut, played the first Super League game before 2014 when I started keeping my spreadsheets, but there's also lots of players who played in those years that aren't on my spreadsheets because they haven't played since I've been keeping my spreadsheets. So
yeah, it's a lot of players. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. But since SLP started in 2014, I make it 970 players have played in Super League, have appeared in Super League. But how many of those 970 made their first Super League appearance in the last millennium, so before the year 2000? And on this one, I'll give you the point for 5 either way of the answer.
Explain that question to me again. It's getting late.
So, how many players have played in Super League since 2014 that made their first Super League appearance before the year 2000? And I'll give you the point for 5 either way of the correct number.
So it's a player who made their debut in 1999 or earlier.
Yes.
But played in the 2014 season or beyond.
Yes.
That's not many. You're talking about a 14-year career before you even start. I'm thinking of like 1 or 2 players. I'm thinking like Gareth Ellis, and I'm thinking players like that. I'm thinking of, oh God, I don't know. Not many. But you said 5 either way, so that's a bit of a clue. I'm going to say 12.
Oh, it's 17.
I'm taking that.
So you get your point.
I'm taking that.
So Adrian Morley debuted in 1996 and did appear in 2014 at Salford in the Red Devolution. Gareth Ellis, he debuted in September 1999. So there was 15 players between those two who played and then played. Paul Sykes debuted in 1999 and actually still played in the Championship this year, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
The other names: Lee Gilmore, John Clark, Gareth Carvell, Kevin Sinfield, Paul Wellens, Leon Price, Andy Lynch, David Hodgson, and I think that was that weird come out of retirement for him. Jamie Peacock, Richard Horne, JJB, Martin Gleeson, Chev Walker, and Ben Westwood. Ben Westwood's the player who had the most appearances in since 2014. That made his debut before 2000.
Wow.
And JJB played in the most seasons, obviously.
Of course. Yeah, I genuinely, I thought 12 was the upper end. I didn't realise there was that many. So
yeah,
I got lucky on that one. I'll fully agree on that, but I'm taking the point.
Now, finally, which club has given the most of those 970 players their first Super League game? So out of all of the Super League clubs, you can write off the ones that haven't played most of the seasons, obviously. So you can write off Toulouse, you can write off
Crusaders,
Widnes, Crusaders, yeah,
Bradford probably. Right. My logic here is it's probably a team with a strong academy. That's my logic. So I'm thinking it's probably one of 3. I'm going to say Wigan.
It is Wigan. 101 players that have appeared during the SLP era, so 2014 to 2022 seasons, and those 9 seasons, has made their Super League debut at Wigan. Saints had 92, Leeds had 87. They were the other 2 clubs you were thinking of.
They were.
Catalans had 81. Obviously,
that
with
makes
them
sense.
being the only French presence until this year, that's why theirs is going to be higher. They have a bit more of their own pick, I guess, and plus they've had a lot of rotation of overseas signings. Hull Chaos 72, Hull FC 71, Wire 60, Wire 66, Cass 62, Huddersfield 59, Salford 58, and Wakefield 57. I think you would have guessed those bottom 2 as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And it kind of shows that the clubs that have been the most successful are generally the clubs that bring through the most players. Even though obviously a lot of those players will have moved on and made their careers at other Super League clubs, those ones at Wigan, Saints and Leeds.
Of course they do. Yeah.
You know, but even in that list we went through before of the old players, Morley made his debut at Leeds, Sinfield made his debut for Leeds, and JJB, obviously. I'm pretty sure Carvell made his debut for Leeds. Then you had like Wellens and Gleeson was at Huddersfield, weren't you? You had Wellens as the only one actually at Saints, and then Gilmore, Clark, they were Wigan players when they made their debuts in Super League. So Chev Walker's another Leeds one, isn't he? So yeah, and then you just throw that forward all these years, all the success those 3 clubs have had. And it's so much built on them bringing through their own players. Obviously, within those figures for those 3 sides as well, there's plenty of signings they've made from overseas, for example, that have made their first Super League appearances for those clubs too. I'm not discounting that from that situation, but
no, but it's not a coincidence that it was those 3 that I went to, because I know that consistently those 3 have been the ones that have had the strongest academies, and as you say, it's no coincidence that they're their most successful three teams. No coincidence.
Well, I think Sean Wayne alone in his time as the Wigan head coach brought through 40 or 50, gave 40 or 50 academy products their debut. I think it was 40 something was the final number when he moved on. So yeah.
Invest in youth. It's the way to go.
Just an finally news story that didn't fit anywhere else, but I thought we should mention that World Cup debutants Jamaica will face a Cumbria Rugby League team as part of their preparations for the World Cup tournament on October the 7th. That match is going to be played up at Derwent Park in Workington.